Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 7 o'clock, and I will call our September Town Council meeting to order. And it's my privilege to welcome everyone tonight and welcome all those that are watching online. We have a group in the audience. We have Dr. Eric Hodges from Longwood. Dr. Hodges, if you would stand. And we have his American Political Science class, Systems class. American Political Systems. If you, ladies and gentlemen, would stand, we are glad to have you. You're going to see government in action tonight. I know you're thrilled about that. But welcome to Farmville, and welcome to the Town Council meeting. With that, Vice Mayor Reed tonight, we're going to switch up, and Vice Mayor Reed is going to lead us in the Lord's Prayer, and Councilman Brian Vincent is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Vice Mayor Reed. Thank you, gentlemen. If the clerk would kindly call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Hunter?
Here.
Mr. Vincent?
Here.
Mr. Parrott?
Here.
Mrs. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer?
Here.
Thank you, clerk. Our first public hearing is on resolution number 2021-0902, Riverwalk Project. Mr. Davis?
Mayor, this is in reference to a potential grant from VDOT to fund a Riverwalk project at Riverside Park.
Do we have anybody signed up to speak? Anybody wishing to speak? If not, I will bring that public hearing to a close. And we will move to the next public hearing in regards to ordinance number 206, Lautering Code Amendment. Mr. Davis?
Mayor, this is just amending our existing code to match the state code better for enforceability.
Anybody signed up to speak to that? If not, I will bring that public hearing to a close, which concludes both of our public hearings. And then item 7 is public comment period. Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak under public comments? And I would remind them that there's a 3-minute time limit.
We have 4 in-person speakers tonight. The first is going to be Crystal Dagner.
Good evening, ma'am. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Dagner. For the past 6 years, I've been both a resident of Farmville and an employee at ICA. Over the past few months, you've heard many human and legal rights organizations make egregious claims regarding treatment of the detained population at the Farmville Detention Center. I am here to present an alternate view to you today, one that is a direct contrast to the picture they have painted. The individuals in our custody live in climate-controlled housing units with bunk beds, restrooms, multiple TVs and telephones, a kiosk to make video calls, and a computer with legal resources to work on their immigration cases. These housing units are also stocked with free hygiene items, writing materials, and an array of games. They are cleaned 3 times a day by those who have volunteered to participate in the facility's work program, which also allows them to make money. Detainees at ICA are offered laundry services twice a week, haircuts once a month, if not more, and religious services for a variety of faiths on a regular basis. All meals are approved by a certified nutritionist with alterations made for an assortment of dietary restrictions. Medical staff is present around the clock and visits each housing unit 4 times a day to distribute prescribed medication and conduct COVID symptom screening. In between those visits, they conduct assessments in the medical area by appointment to address non-emergent complaints. Recreation is offered daily in 4-hour blocks and consists of soccer and volleyball fields, a basketball court and indoor gym outfitted with cardio and weight training equipment, a game room with Xbox and PlayStation consoles, and access to hundreds of movies. Lastly, we do not and have not ever beaten anyone unconscious. Contrary to what other organizations have suggested, physical force and the application of restraints are never used as a punishment in our facility. Any incident that takes place is reported, no matter how small, and all significant incidents are scrutinized by ICE personnel to ensure that there were no policy violations on our part. Since I've been employed at ICA, we have passed every audit and unannounced inspection with flying colors because we have the documentation and camera footage to prove that we not only maintain the standards, but exceed them. We provide a safe environment that houses adult males for whom ICE has determined that detention is necessary while they navigate the immigration process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next guest.
Our next speaker is Shade Childress.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Shade Childress, and I'm currently an Assistant Shift Commander at Immigration Centers of America. I've been employed at ICA for 4 years and have been a resident in this town for practically my whole entire life. Since working at ICA, I have developed many qualities that I've used in everyday life. Some of these include leadership skills, respect, and courage. There have been many accusations by human and legal rights organizations regarding the alleged mistreatment and abuse of the detainee population. I can proudly state that this does not take place at the Immigration Centers of America. Our mission is to provide a safe, humane, and appropriately secure civil detention environment that offers an appealing alternative to the standard method of detention for federal immigration while they navigate the immigration process. At ICA, we provide a variety of resources and classes to help the detained population migrate through their immigration process. Some of those resources are Law Library, Alcoholics Anonymous, Bible study, group therapy, English classes, guitar lessons, and art class. If detainees attend Alcoholics Anonymous, they are able to receive documentation of participation to use in their court cases. Many detainees take advantage of our volunteer worker program as well. The program offers jobs such as barber, kitchen detail, commissary worker, dorm cleaner, admin cleaner, and laundry workers. Enrollment allows them the chance to receive funds for their services. ICA also offers medical staff that is available 24 hours. In emergency situations, detainees are escorted to medical for immediate evaluation. If the situation is not urgent, the detainee will submit a sick call request and will be seen within 24 hours by the in-house doctor. All requests are picked up every day and translated if necessary. Immigration Centers of America provides the detainee population with a grievance system that protects the detainee's rights and ensures that they are treated fairly by providing a procedure where they might file informal or formal grievances. The detainees receive responses relating to any aspect of their detention. Throughout my tenure, I have always been able to deny all accusations of mistreatment or abuse to any detainee. ICE officials and ICA reviews all uses of force after incidents. Our findings from the reviews are applied into training to provide even safer measures for both staff and detainees. We have had multiple audits throughout my time here at ICA, which we have passed with outstanding scores. Social media, newspapers, and testimonies may attempt to paint a different picture, but I am here to say that my coworkers and I strive to provide a safe and secure detention environment for all. While the accusations are still being made, we will continue to do our job to protect. That is what we stand for. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next guest, Clark.
Our next speaker is Rick Ewing.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
There you go.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, Mr. Davis. I'm just letting you know about a little bit of news about the library, and that is that we've entered into an agreement for a partnership with Hampton-Sydney College to share our online catalog. We shifted our online catalog to their platform. It's called Circe Dynex. It's a well-known library. This is big library news, by the way. For all the nerds out there, this is really exciting. I just want to let you know. So you'll be able, people in Farmville and elsewhere in all of the area that we serve, will be able to use their library card at Hampton-Sydney College to check out material, and we'll have a delivery system. They can pick it up either here or at Buckingham, and they can return it any of the libraries, and it'll get back to where it belongs. And you'll be able to search the Hampton-Sydney College catalog from your home or from in the library or at work, or I know that's what you do at your lunch hour, right? And request material online, and it'll show up here in Farmville, for instance, as we have weekly delivery. And so I think it'll be a big. It's nice to have a partnership between a public library and an academic library, and I think it'll be good for the citizens of Farmville and for Hampton-Sydney College too. Our two collections very rarely duplicate. They have an academic collection, we have a public library collection, and both can use the other. So I just want to let you know something that was going on.
Is there ever a possibility that Longwood will be a part of that as well?
Actually, Brent Roberts, the Dean of Greenwood Library, is the one who suggested that this ball get rolling in a meeting that we had. He's interested in it. It's really hard for an academic library to shift, to make this, for them it would be a larger shift, a bigger shift than for us. This has been going on since late last year. So he's been working on it. It's a longer process for a university to change. So the answer to your question is, I believe that's yes.
Good. That'd be great to have a public university, a private university, and the public library all joining hands. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Great
you for your
news.
time.
Thank you. Clerk, next guest.
Our last speaker is Jason Caputo.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jason Caputo. I've been a resident of Farmville for 7 years, and I'm here to share my experience while working at ICA Farmville. My first experience at ICA was as a sophomore attending Longwood University, along with other criminal justice students and Spanish language students and Longwood professors. I taught an English as a second language class to detainees. In September of 2018, I began my employment at ICA as a detention officer and a Spanish translator. In 3 years, never have I observed any situation that could objectively be construed as torturous, abusive, or negligent towards the detained individuals who are under our care and supervision. In any event in which force is deemed necessary in order to gain control of any given situation, an after-action review is conducted by ICA and ICE. The findings of these reviews are then implemented in staff training, if necessary, in order to improve our ability to maintain a safe environment for everyone. ICA is a detention facility for adult males who are now awaiting their immigration status from a federal judge. Detainees housed at ICA are offered 3 meals a day, which are prepared in the kitchen run by a third-party contractor. Detainees are able to apply for jobs within the facility, which they are paid for, jobs like laundry worker, barbershop, processing assistant, and kitchen detail. The dormitory housing units are cleaned 3 times a day by detainees taking advantage of that same work agreement. Each dormitory has several phones and a video call box available to facilitate communication with their families and loved ones, which are available from 5:30 in the morning until 10:30 at night every day. In addition to the necessities ICA already provides them, There is a commissary for them to utilize, which they can buy extra food, snacks, toiletries, specialty soaps, shampoos, sneakers, and clothing to help provide them with comforts they may have previously enjoyed. There is a library where they can read any available book or research any subject they like, a game room with multiple gaming systems, an indoor gym with workout equipment, and a chapel room for religious services. There's a 24/7 medical department that collects their submitted sick call requests every single day. Detainee requests are translated, and the detainee is seen within 24 hours of request submission. In an urgent situation, they are seen immediately. If further medical attention is needed, the detainee will be referred to the in-house doctor at the facility on weekdays. And in any emergency situation, the rescue squad will be called to take the detainee to Central Southside Hospital. There have been statements made about the conditions at ICA Farmville, but in reality, those statements are being made by people whose only information is gained secondhand. We have regular audits conducted by ICE and other accreditation agencies, to my knowledge, since my employment, every one of which we have passed. The CDC, Virginia Department of Health, Department of Corrections, the American Correctional Association, the Assistant Field Office Director of the Richmond ICE Office, and some of you, the town council members, have all entered the facility in the past year and seen firsthand how well we conduct our duties in the supervision and care of those detained at ICA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Next guest? Okay, we'll move back to the regular order of business. Item number 8, I need approval for the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they wish to pull from the consent agenda? If not, do I hear a motion we approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 9, Treasurer's Report. Madam Treasurer?
Now, the unrestricted funds, sewer fund, has a large reduction for the month. That was due to the $400,000 that y'all agreed upon last month to transfer from the sewer fund to the general fund. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept the treasury report.
Second. Motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. You know what? At this point, I'm going to deviate a minute from the agenda. My apologies. Jen Cox is here from Longwood University, and I did want her to give an update. Jen, you did not sign up, so it threw me off. It doesn't take much at my age to throw me off. But I do want you to give an update on Longwood, because there have been some questions about Longwood's dashboard and the fact that we are seeing more COVID cases in the community. So, Jen Cox, thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We talked this afternoon, so thank you for allowing me to add myself to the agenda. So first I want to start, when I was here last month, I was just telling you the students were moving in. So as you can see behind me, the students are back, and it's nice to see the energy back on campus, and I hope you're feeling that out and about in the community too. I've also been very impressed, as have my colleagues, about the students being able to comply with all of our requirements, wearing masks indoors, social distancing when they can. So overall, our year is off to a good start. We're in our 3rd week of classes. So the mayor's specific questions related to COVID and our dashboard and kind of where we're at. So for perspective, every college in Virginia is seeing some cases right now, no matter the level of vaccination. For us specifically at the university, most cases we're seeing are vaccinated students, and it's one of 2 situations. Either they have minor symptoms, they're going to the health center to be tested so we can rule things out, or they've been contact exposed. So we've asked them to go ahead, even though they've been contact exposed and have no symptoms, to go to the health center to be tested 5 days after exposure. So we're following all those same CDC guidelines that we followed last year. You all probably have been reading, and we know this, that the vaccines have really been helping limit the spread. We have a really well-vaccinated university community. As of today, no classroom spread, no workplace transmission. So it's really been kind of small situations. Additionally, we're really lucky in that our resources have not been stretched or strained as of now. We're monitoring daily because we know how quickly that can change. And we also have the same tools in place we had last year. As many of you know, I'm one of the folks that's also doing contact tracing for the university. So we still have that, and it's still very robust when we're following up with students. I'm sure they prefer me not to text them, but whatever works to get a response. But we're working with our students closely to make sure we keep the same protocols we had in place last year. Overall, about 90% of our faculty and staff are currently vaccinated. As a state entity, you all might recall that the governor has mandated that. So testing starts next week for any faculty and staff that have not been vaccinated or have not been fully vaccinated, and they'll be required to test weekly until they're fully vaccinated. Any questions I can answer?
Any questions? Are we doing quarantining on campus as we did? We have specific locations.
Sure, absolutely. So thank you for asking that. So we do have a quarantine option for our students. Last year we used ARC. This year we're using Cox Residence Hall. We would still provide meals, et cetera, take into account dietary concerns. We also have the opportunity this year, because we have a bit more flexibility. Last year when they were quarantining, they couldn't leave the building. This year, if they're quarantining in place, we'll give them a couple hours every afternoon. They can go outside if the weather's nice. So they have a bit more freedom. We'll deliver meals, deliver mail. Kind of if you need it, we'll make sure it's delivered to you while you're there.
One other quick question. Heart of Virginia obviously has been canceled.
Sure.
But it's the same weekend as Parents Weekend. No changes there. We're still going forward with that.
Yes, as of now, we're still planning to do family weekends. So if you're on our campus and you're inside, our requirements are to wear a mask. We have masks everywhere, and we'll be able to provide those to students and families. From what we're hearing, it sounds like the families would still appreciate the opportunity to come to the community to visit, to see what their students are doing. And, I think we can all agree that we'd like to provide the families an opportunity to not just visit on campus, but also to go out, maybe go shopping, grab some food, and help support the community, because it's been a pretty difficult time the past 18 months for a lot of our businesses.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you for providing the update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll return back to our regular order of business and item number 10, which is to request adoption of resolution number 2021-0902 Riverwalk Project. And what I would like to do here is pause for a minute and ask Mr. Davis to sort of give council a brief history and bring them up to date. This project was on the drawing board a couple of years ago. We took it off. And so just kind of give everybody an update of where we've been, what's happened in the last 2 years, and why we're where we are tonight.
Mayor, members of council, you may remember this project was initially discussed by my predecessor, the town manager that retired before me in 2019. And at that time, the town used Proctor Harvey, who had the town's used for other things, but had gone in with Balzer and Associates. They did a very preliminary, real preliminary drawing. If you remember, VDOT did not believe that the cost estimate was as accurate as it could be on what that would cost. And about the time that this was to go to council, during that time, council had asked that more information be brought back, specifically the funding piece of it. When it was time for it to be brought back, I was interim. The grants are due by October 1st. That these types of projects fall under. This was the end of August, so it would have been your September meeting 2 years ago that we did not decide to move forward with doing anything with this project because there wasn't any additional information. Since then, staff and myself have worked with VDOT and their consulting engineers are RK&K, and I would say over the last year and a half, this has been discussed by email, and then actually RK&K have been on site. We walked from the High Bridge Trail down all the way to Riverside Park into Main Street, looking at this project. On their team, they had environmentalists to structural engineers, a lot of different areas covered. What they brought back was a more complete design, which you have in your packet. If you remember the first one, the first phase would have been the raised walkway going from High Bridge Trail. However, it's flip-flopped in this presentation and decided to do the first phase. This is a two-phase project. The first phase being the portion that is in Riverside Park. And the design is much different. It fortunately and unfortunately is not as close to the river. The reason for that is it would drive the cost up of the project. Anytime you get closer and you have wetlands involved and some other factors, that cost rises. And so they redesigned it from the very first project, where we're reducing some parking on Main Street that'll tie in nicely to the sidewalks. It has and creates, where we have our stage, if you notice, it actually creates a nice walkable path that someone could do circular walking if they're trying just to do laps in the meantime. And then it branches off to where, towards underneath the bridge of Main Street, where it could connect at a later time to another trail that takes it further along the river. It does have a access down to where we have kayakers and canoers that take out in that area from the Blue Way. And then the other section that you see in green would lead then ultimately to the second phase, which would connect to the raised elevation of that part of the trail.
Mr. Davis, if I may, for those here and those watching, I did just ask our media person if she had that map she could put up on the screen for you all to see, and she does not have it. My apologies, but it will be made available so you can see the map.
That leads to the raised portion. Also in this project, you know where the parking lot that you would cross in order to get to the other part of High Bridge Trail is actually somewhat diagonal now. This would be, that would straighten to where it is not diagonal. It's not such a, it'd be a more direct access across the roadway, and maybe hopefully more visible for those pedestrians, and have some more signs making it easier for pedestrians. I will say that the cost estimate for this project now is more definitive than it was in the first rendition. The first phase is broken out into 3 phases, which is preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction. You have in your packet the overall project cost. And, well, one other thing I want to mention is right-of-way phase, a lot of times in projects, if you're talking about roadways or other projects, if you don't own the land, obviously that right-of-way is a lot more costly than you see here. Because we own this portion of the property, it really does save us. The construction obviously is the most expensive piece. The overall project cost estimated by RK&K and validated with VDOT is a little over $1.5 million. When you put that, the next pages that you'll see, when you put that into the application process, if you look on the second page of that, it increases the contingency and the inflation. And so the inflation increases this because the construction date would not start until 2026, and the completion would not be until 2028. And with that inflation, they estimate through this online process that the actual cost by then could be a little over $1.8 million. The town's portion is 20%. So we would just be committing to 20% of the project if we get the grant. The other 80% is funded by federal and state funds. The resolution before you tonight is just authorization and your support of moving forward with the grant application seeking funding for the project.
Are there any questions about the project? And this is simply the first phase, right? There will be another.
If we get approved for the project, the choice is we accept it and we continue, or we don't and we lose the funding and it moves on to somebody else.
Correct. But I mean, after this, there could still be additional projects down there.
Other projects,
The trail could be expanded.
yes, that's a selling point of the project, is that when there has to be a terminus to where there's an expansion or there's another phase to it. And so it leads to High Bridge Trail, which is the second phase, but it also has the other option that we can move towards the other route of the river.
And that's what I was referencing by another phase. There could be the phase of moving toward High Bridge Trail, or another phase of moving the other direction in 10 years or so.
So in 2 years from now, this grant's only available every 2 years. So 2 years from now, you can put in for phase 2, which would then potentially be funded in 2030 and finished in 32, and estimating.
Correct.
Most of us will probably not be sitting here.
Yeah, I was going to say, I will not be here for that, but that would be wonderful.
No, I'm actually just here to answer any questions. Those of you who don't know me, I'm Todd Fortune with Commonwealth Regional Council, and I've been actually working with Scott on potential application. So I'm just here to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions?
CRC does the application for us and does the administration of the paperwork for the project. The other cost in this is we would let VDOT administer the project, which means the town would not administer it. If you remember, we talked about this in road projects in the past. If we administer the project, then we're responsible for overseeing all of the different aspects, and we have to put up the money and then get reimbursed a month or two later. With VDOT administering the project, we give them our 20%, and they handle the rest.
Just for simplification, if in 2 years this is a $2 million project versus a 1.8, we're on the hook for 400,000.
20%, yes.
Yeah, so it'd be 400,000 if it's a $2 million project. But we're talking 2 years or more down the road.
Well, no, 2026. So you're talking four years
down the
before
road.
it's actually, and that's why they do the inflation. Is today's dollars, it would be 1.5. The portal was saying when it is to initiate, the inflation is increased to say it's probably going to be more of 1.8.
So if council approves this resolution tonight, they just need to remember that 4 years or more down the road, there's this commitment of say $400,000, give or take.
Yes, and I do believe that at that point in time, we have our ARPA money that we're gonna, that'll reduce some of our that can help with some of the water and sewer projects that we might have to fund other ways that are coming down the road, especially at our 2 plants. But also before 2026, we reduce our debt considerably as far as writing some of that off and paying that down. So there are opportunities for other things in how we fund this, pay as you go, potentially, we borrow, but there are ways to do this at that time that I think we have the ability to do, or I wouldn't bring it to you.
Mr. Fortune, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Only that the application's due October, and typically award announcements are usually June, July the next year. And then after that, it'll be a couple of months before you're actually under contract to undertake the project. Once you're under contract with VDOT, you have 4 years to complete it. Now, I'm not aware of any situations where VDOT has implemented circumstances or consequences for not finishing within 4 years. But the expectation is once you're under contract for the project, you'll be done in 4 years with everything.
And what we're voting on currently is just a resolution to move it into the application process. We're going to once again circle back to this at a time it does or does not, does become approved to sort of accept.
I think I know what you're asking. Basically, tonight the resolution is just to authorize the town to move forward with the application. If you decide later on, if you're awarded and decide later on you don't want it, You don't have to sign the grant agreement. You can always give it back. That is an option.
It's frowned upon, but you can do that.
Yes.
You might get passed over the next time you put in a grant, but
I just always like those second looks.
yeah.
Any other questions? Any discussion among the council? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move that we adopt the resolution 2021-0902 endorsing the Farmville Riverwalk Project.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Thank you, sir. Item number 11, request adoption of resolution 2021-903 to write off delinquent accounts. Mr. Davis or Mr. Cole from Finance, either of you want to speak to these? Madam Treasurer, sorry. You would be happy if they spoke to them, right? You have no issues with that whatsoever.
Y'all can have the floor.
All yours.
I brought this to finance in August. These were business personal property accounts that were old. They couldn't be collected. The business had closed. And I asked if we could get this written off. The amount is very low. $1,286.94. And it was their recommendation to bring it to council.
Any questions? It's uncollectible. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution number 2021-0903 to write off uncollected business personal property taxes.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any additional discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Cole.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Thank you, sir. Item number 12, request adoption of resolution 2021-904, transfer of funds. Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir. This was also brought to finance as well. Last month, as you know, we paid off Wilkes Lake, and you all have been using a fund that from the sale of Motley Lake, and so with the Motley Lake fund, there's money left, and so that was. $630,153.15. I suggested then that we hinted that we could do something with that money. I brought it to the Finance Committee in that we are trying to obviously look at changing. There's a section in our employee handbook about in a policy set prior years about retiree compensation benefit to cover health insurance when they retire. And so we were trying to reduce that long-term liability on our books. And in doing that, this would help pay what will be next on your agenda, the solution for the medical compensation retirees. This money would be used to start paying down what could be close to $2 million.
Yeah, we kind of probably should have flipped these two agenda items around. The medical compensation should have been first, because obviously we need to approve that before we move these funds into a restricted account designated to pay that compensation fund. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd recommend we move to 13 and come back to 12 in this process.
Item number 13 is request adoption of resolution 2021-0905, the medical compensation That came before council last month. There was some discussion, and we sent that back to committee, and they have come back with yet another proposal that I think everybody's had an opportunity to look at and feels much better about. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I'll summarize this as best as I can. Originally, there was a resolution 2021-06-06 that to change the handbook and to put a stop date of employees accruing years of service for this particular benefit. And that was as of June 30, 2021. Any new employee, July 1 of 2021, was not available for this benefit. To solve the long-term liability of this benefit on our financials, the following is what has been recommended to the Finance Committee. There's been a few renditions. Last time, you remember, there was an age, and we said retirement. You'll notice in this, we do not say retirement. We say separation from the town. And there is no age limit. The summary is that as of those years accumulated as of June 30, 2021, employees with 25 years or more service will receive what the handbook has said in the past, $250 per month for 25 years plus, an additional $10 per month for each additional year of service over the 25 years. Those employees with 20 to 24 years of service, well, and that calculates, if it's just 25 years, that calculates to $3,000 a year, so that I can explain where the other figures came from for the years after. Employees with years 20 to 24 of service, they'll receive $2,500 per year. Employees with 15 to 19 of service would receive $2,000 per year. Employees with 10 to 14 years of service will receive $1,500 per year. Employees with 5 to 9 years will receive $1,000 per year. Employees with 1 to 4 years would receive $500 per year. The employee would begin receiving this compensation once the employee separates employment with the town of Farmville, and they shall receive this payment for a maximum of 10 years or until the employee is deceased, whichever happens first. These payments are made quarterly, January, April, July, and October. And the Finance Committee, the chair recommended this, that when an employee would have an option when they do separate, they could get it over 10 years, or they have the option to take a lump sum payment, but it would only be 80% of that total that was mentioned earlier, depending on what years, the years of service you have. And you could get a lump sum payment and not get it over that 10-year period. And that would cover all of those employees that are currently in that. And as I said, that comes out to be, without anybody taking the 80% lump sum, which would reduce our liability even more than taking it over 10 years, is a little short of $2 million. But it keeps $2 million off of our liability, and it keeps our liability from growing any further.
Correct. Any questions? Any comments from Finance Committee?
Just as Scott said, it does kind of put a ceiling on our liability. I think we have 12 employees that are still under the old plan, which have lifetime benefits at this, but everybody else would be under this, and you're going to see the liability come down in the years as they separate. Now, as he said, there's not a retirement. So if someone that's been here 1 year turns in their notice tomorrow, and then they can start receiving that payment, they can either take $500 over 10 years, or they can take 80% of $5,000 as a lump sum payout. So I think it's a very fair plan to everybody. Anybody that was employed prior to July 1 of 2021, or I guess July 1 of 2020, because you have to have a year in, is eligible to receive these funds. So I think it's very fair.
Any other questions or comments? If not, do I hear a motion that we adopt this resolution?
I make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2021-0905.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any additional conversation? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Thank you, sir. Now let's go back to 12 and figure out how we fund this.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I just real quickly, what the Finance Committee wanted to do is to be able to start putting money aside so that we have funds that are allocated and restricted to pay this so that we reduce the future burden of the town. That's why we're asking this extra 600 and some $1,000 that's sitting in the Motley Lake be moved into a restricted fund, or actually the name of the account be changed to the benefit fund instead of actually moving out of the checking account. So we've already funded about a third of it, and then we'll have a plan to continue funding that through the years so we have money to pay for this benefit plan.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the resolution 2021-0904 to transfer the funds.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Thank you, sir. Now we'll go to item 14, request adoption of Budget Resolution 2021-0906 Budget Amendment. Madam Treasurer.
Yes, sir. The 2021 town budget needs to be amended to carry over unspent funds in the Recreation Department from the fiscal year 2021 budget for football equipment that was ordered and was canceled, and we need to carry that over and order it in this year, and the amount is $8,396.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Clerk.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Davis, was there something going on with the equipment that the new recreation director was telling us about it?
Every 2 years, I believe it is now, you either have to have new helmets or you have to have helmets inspected to make sure they meet the new concussion protocols. And so since we didn't have a season, we missed out on that last year. And also there was a need for new jerseys and other equipment like that for the program.
Was the equipment hard to come by?
No, not relatively. It was not.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Item number 15, request adoption of ordinance number 206, 206, Laundering Code Amendment.
Make a motion, we adopt the ordinance number 206 on the Laundering Code Amendment.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Vincent,
Yes.
Mrs. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes.
Mr. Hunter,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Thank you. Item 16, discussion of the part-time Farmville area bus drivers' hourly wage increase. Mr. Davis.
Mayor, members of council, I think you have, this is just the beginning of a conversation that I'll get into, explaining some other things tied to this. The pandemic and change in the economy has changed how people are applying for jobs and also the price that wages for people in working. We are currently, while I'm doing this, I'm going to give you an update, which would traditionally be under my staff report. Sometimes you've asked about personnel. We're 3 drivers short in the Farmville area bus. We're 3 officers down in the police department. In Public Works, we're down 4, potentially 5 employees. Fire, we're down 1. Emergency Communications, 1. Recreation, 1. Finance, 1. And Community Development, 1. Bus, PD, and Public Works primarily have to do some different factors, but one common factor is wage. For Public Works, we've filled positions, and people have come and they've already gone. And so some of these positions we're filling for the 3rd time in the last 12 months. Some of that has to do with generational change. Some of that has to do with wages and those types of things. Police department, as we know, the change of things that have come about and in our society, there's less people, I believe, that want to do the job, and those that do and have experience, it's harder to recruit them in the application pool. But we do have some currently that we're looking at to fill these spots, but they're not certified. They're ones that we'd put through the academy. It's no different with those that drive the bus, that have a CDL license, similar to the ones in Public Works. It's hard to find CDL drivers. I think you've seen that probably on the news. There's locally school bus drivers. There's a shortage. There's also in the Richmond area, you've seen that probably in some of the larger school systems. But CDL drivers are not as common, and the price for them are more expensive than they have been. I would say that our current wages for the bus are $12 to $14 for those that have a CDL. The reason some of these are leaving is wage. I am suggesting that we do hire some that drive the smaller buses that don't require CDL and the vans, the paratransit vans. We have a few that have not gotten a CDL that drive those. I'm recommending tonight that for those type of positions that we would pay 13, and for those with a CDL that we would pay 15. The reason I'm only bringing up the bus this evening instead of all the others I've named is because the bus can afford it through their contingency. They have over $300,000 sitting in contingency. They can cover a salary increase in their budget. Unfortunately, Public Works and Police Department do not have that luxury currently. But I would like to bring, as we build next year's budget, ways that we could look at salaries in those areas and what that increase may look like. A surrounding jurisdiction pays $16 an hour for those that have a CDL license. That's whether it's the bus or whether it's any CDL driver. Tonight I'm requesting that for CDL for the bus we pay $15 an hour. They're part-time, so they don't get some of the other benefits either. They don't get medical, they don't get time off. If they don't work, they don't get paid. And those without a CDL, $13 an hour.
I really don't think we have the luxury to put this into another budget year. These skilled positions, these licensed certified positions are important to us, extremely important. So I think we've got to act on this pretty quickly and make sure that we are very competitive with our police department, with our skilled laborers, as well as CDL. I mean, we can find the money somewhere. It's not an option really for us to just kind of wait and see what we can do. So I really think we need to come up with a plan, and we need to have some recommendations to put this into action pretty quickly.
If Mr. Reed and I were in Charlottesville at the mayor's conference a couple of months ago, And this was the topic of discussion amongst localities all across the Commonwealth. The problem is not unique to us. Everybody is having a wage issue, right, Mr. Reed? And there was the magic number of $15 an hour that virtually every community was trying to get to. And I will tell you, the communities in Northern Virginia, they have no problem. Communities in Southwest Virginia and Central Virginia are struggling mightily to keep people and try to meet this wage. And there's actually a little stealing among communities going on. There was a little bantering back and forth among some mayors about you're stealing my people. But it is a problem, and I agree we're going to have to address it sooner rather than later, because if you ride through town and look at the marquees of some of the fast food places, they're offering wages that are that we can't keep people, that they can go to a fast food place and make a wage that's greater than working for the town. So I really do think what I'd really like to do is put it into the Finance Committee. I have no problem addressing Mr. Davis's request tonight because there is a shortage. They need bus drivers. But for the rest of it, put it into the Finance Committee and come look at the budget, come back with some recommendations and see what we can do before we lose more people. What's the pleasure of council? What are the thoughts of everyone else?
I'm in favor as well. I can, even from a small business perspective, we face the same thing, I think, throughout this community. And so, yeah, it's imperative that some of those positions within Public Works and the Police Department be dealt with, and we need to jump on it.
Everybody in agreement. Do I have a motion to approve the request from FAB now and the Finance Committee come back with a recommendation for everybody else?
I'll put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Mrs. Amos?
Yes.
On a unanimous vote, the measure has passed.
Thank you, sir. Item 17, staff reports. Mr. Davis?
I'll lead into my other ones. You're probably still curious where we are with the monument situation. The company that we hired for the ground penetrating radar is complete. The area that we are recommending that the monument be moved to in the Confederate Cemetery did not show anything definitively. So it looks like we'll be able to do that at that location.
You want to define for everybody's sake, did not show what we were looking for? What it did not show.
We do not believe there are any deceased individuals buried in that area that we're looking to move the monument to. The actual RFP to have a company move the monument is due. All the bids are due this Friday, so we'll have a better idea of who bid and how much that cost will be. On another topic, talking about recreation, this is something that I've thought about for a little while, and that is the facility that they're currently located in. They are above the sports arena, and it's not a. I talked to the recreation committee about this. It's not a formidable area for them to be located. They're outside of town. People can come in. You'll never hear them come in. I just don't think it's good customer service. I'd like to move them downtown. Originally, I had the plan if fire programs did not renew their lease with the town that we would put them in the fire programs area of the South Street Conference Center. They did renew their lease at a more advantageous rate for the town. However, I looked at the other space that's downstairs at the conference center and that we use to allow people to have meetings. It holds anywhere between 20 and 25, depending on how tight you want to be in there. We only rent it for $100 per day. And majority of the time, when I look back from 2017, take COVID year out, the majority of people that use it are those that we don't charge rent to anyway, nonprofits, government entities, all those types of things. I would like to use that facility instead of a conference center We have more than enough room at the train station. We could do government people at the EOC during the week. I'd like to make and bring our recreation team, if we're going to really have a recreational program downtown, and make that their office space.
I'd like to make a motion that we relocate the recreation office downtown.
Second.
Motion and second. Any additional discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
One question.
Yep.
What are we using the building out at Wilkes Lake for?
We're not using it for anything, but I wouldn't suggest we use it for anything.
And that's still out, that's out. You want them in?
I want to.
No, I can understand what he's saying without saying it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Back to your report, Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir. Another item I have is Fuqua School in the past, well, at least since I've been here, and probably much longer than that, started doing a Veterans Day program on Crute Stage. And every year on Veterans Day, they contacted me, actually today, it was a great timing because we had a council meeting, to see if we would allow them to start planning and do a Veterans Day at Crute Stage. I know we're cognizant of our area and the case numbers. However, the number that usually comes to Veterans Day is not as large as some of the other events that have been canceled. And I do believe we could space the chairs, and it is an outside event. I would suggest that we move forward unless something really changes to allow to have a Veterans Day celebration this year.
Anybody have any issues with that? No. Let's move forward.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Anything else, Chief?
I just want to commend each of you for what you did on the medical compensation part. I know that has been weighing on a lot of employees very heavily, and I think y'all did an exceptional job, and I think you've gotten it. You did well. Congratulations, and we thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Atkins? Okay. We'll go around the table with committee reports. Mr. Cole, Finance?
Finance had one other item that we discussed that was sent to us, and that's about the rates at the golf course, and the committee does not recommend any changes to those rates out there.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Mr. Hunter?
Nothing from public safety.
Mr. Vincent?
We covered most of the information gone over in the recreational committee. I will say we all got to sit with our new recreation director, Mr. Woodson, and I'm very excited about seeing him hitting the ground running, and he seems extremely psyched about the opportunity, and I'm extremely psyched to see what he does with it.
Thank you. Mr. Parrott?
The infrastructure had a meeting, and we discussed alley abandonment, and I'm assuming that our town manager is still trying to get results as far as from the people who are affected by that.
Yeah, we've drafted a letter and sending those out to those in those two areas.
And then we also discussed the stop signs as far as for 4th Avenue extension, and would like to recommend that we move forward with that.
Do we need a motion? Are you going to handle that administratively?
I think we can handle that administratively.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
Mr. Dwyer? Nothing. Mr. Reed?
After the finance committee meet, I'd like to meet with personnel to see what we can do with these positions that we have to fill.
The clerk will be happy to set that up.
Thank you.
Ms. Amos? Okay. Anybody else have anything?
I will say I was one of the council members who toured the ICA facility recently. After concluding that tour, I posted on my council Facebook page that anybody was willing to reach out to me with any sort of questions or concerns they may have had. I did not have anybody locally who reached out. I will say thank you to the folks who showed up today to speak on behalf of the facility. That facility does have 20-plus medical professionals on staff, which I found pretty impressive. I was also, it was interesting to see the amount of amenities as far as the gaming systems, the computer systems, the instruments and musical instruments, the chapel, all of those things there as well. And then the array of accreditation that the facility had accrued over time was likewise informative. So I once again extend that invitation. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to contact me. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything?
I also went with Mr. Vincent out to the detention facility, so if anybody has any questions, they can contact me. I was very pleased with what I saw as well.
Okay. I asked the clerk to put at your space tonight an article from Virginia Living that I believe was in the August edition, but it is about Farmville, and it's really well written. It covers Farmville and the amenities that we have here very well. I believe the clerk's actually going to try to find a magazine or two to put in the town office, but it really is a great marketing piece for Farmville, and thank you, Virginia Living, for doing that. And if you haven't read it, and to the students that are here, I would say that we're welcome to send it to you digitally. The clerk has it, and it is a great piece on Farmville and what's available here, and I would encourage you to read that. Anybody else have anything?
I guess I'm going to add that I did visit the facility, ICA, and I guess I was the first council member to visit it with actually the people from the federal government. And from the things I saw, I relayed to my colleagues that did not come out there, and they seemed to, with my experience, understand and believe that what I saw was pleasing. I didn't see anything that some of the other people have brought up. And so now we can move forward.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else have anything? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.